Every time the crew travels to this sea area, they can all hear regular tapping sounds coming from underwater. This strange sound is clearly not made by fish. To explore the truth, the captain arranged for the crew to dive underwater. After his exploration, he found out that the knocking sound was actually coming from inside the submarine, but at this point, the submarine was severely damaged. He couldn't even enter the interior to check. To determine the time when the submarine sank, the captain asked him to check the submarine number, but the bow of the ship has been completely covered by mud and sand. He can't even see the submarine number. Next, the crew tentatively tapped the hull with tools. Unexpectedly, there was a response to his tapping inside, and this regular metal tapping sound is exactly the same as what they previously detected. They speculate that there may still be survivors inside the cabin. The captain immediately instructed the crew to send a sonar signal to the submarine. If the sunken submarine belongs to their country, the other party is sure to receive the signal sent out. I don't know how long it took. The sonar officer did not receive any response. At this point, the crew member who was about to run out of oxygen also surfaced. However, even more eerie is, the deputy captain who heard the knocking suddenly fell into a coma. When he woke up from his coma again, but he was talking to himself, and there was a voice calling him, but the doctor just thinks he's a bit fatigued. But at this moment, the radar suddenly detected that the underwater submarine had deviated. The captain immediately ordered the crew to launch again to check. When the crew submerged and discovered, the position of the submarine has indeed changed. The bow of the ship covered in mud and sand also appears. The crew reported the submarine number to the captain. However, when the captain flipped through the files, he was stunned. Originally, this submarine served in the Pacific Fleet during World War II, and it has been sunk for 20 years. When the captain reports the situation to headquarters, but the crew found a strange object inside the warship has just sailed into a mysterious sea area, but they heard a strange noise coming from underwater. When they detected it with instruments, they found, it turned out to be the sound of hitting metal. To explore the truth, the captain sent his crew down to inspect. After a thorough inspection, they found out that this noise was actually emitted from a sunken submarine. The captain found out after searching the archives. This submarine was sunk 20 years ago. At that moment, the knocking sound rang out again. The deputy captain who was resting suddenly woke up with a start. He looked at the mirror as if fascinated, found a few people waving at him inside. The deputy captain was very frightened. In a panic, he had to smash the mirror. The doctor who heard the sound rushed in. At this point, the deputy captain was already scared out of his mind. He panicked and told the doctor everything he saw, but the doctor thinks he's just experiencing hallucinations. Meanwhile, the crew that sank underwater resurfaced, and handed over what he discovered to the captain. After checking, the captain found that this rusty identification plate means it belongs to the deputy captain. Then he handed over this identification card to the deputy captain, and asked him what exactly happened. And when the deputy captain saw it, he was lost in thought, and then shared with the captain the scene he had experienced back then. Originally, he had just joined the Navy and was sent to this sunken submarine. However, as a signalman, he made a fatal mistake. It was precisely because of his mistake that the enemy discovered them. They were surrounded by enemy fleets. The captain found that this rusty identification plate means it belongs to the deputy captain. Then he handed over this identification card to the deputy captain, and asked him what exactly happened. And when the deputy captain saw it, he was lost in thought, and then shared with the captain the scene he had experienced back then. Originally, he had just joined the Navy and was sent to this sunken submarine. However, as a signalman, he made a fatal mistake. It was precisely because of his mistake that the enemy discovered them. They were surrounded by enemy fleets. Although they tried their best to avoid enemy attacks, the submarine was ultimately sunk by the enemy, and he was luckily thrown out of the submarine. And when he woke up, he has been rescued by friendly forces. But after that, the voices of the team members often rang in his ears. It seems to be summoning him to go somewhere. The expression of the deputy captain suddenly became tense as he spoke. He said that it was through this knocking sound that his deceased teammate told him, "They've been waiting for him here all along." The emotions of the deputy captain are getting increasingly excited. The captain quickly comforted him, but it was not his fault alone. This is caused by war. It is caused by various environmental factors, despite the captain's efforts to persuade him. But the deputy captain always believed that it was his fault. Then he brought his identity card onto himself. Then he said to the captain, "I have to leave. Sir, they call me underwater." Just finished speaking, the deputy captain pushed the door open and rushed out of the room. Although they immediately chased after him, in the end, they still couldn't stop him. He jumped straight into the deep sea from the deck. The captain quickly ordered someone to search for him in the seawater, but after a meticulous search, they did not find the figure of the deputy captain. At this point, the rescue team has entered the interior of the submarine. However, the scene before him left the crew stunned in an instant. After returning, the captain quickly inquired about his situation. He quickly stated that there were no survivors inside. There was just a corpse holding a hammer in its hand. The captain did not feel shocked after listening. He seems to have guessed everything already. Just ask the crew not to tell anyone what they see. Since the deputy captain jumped into the sea, the familiar knocking sound never sounded again. That's the end of the movie. Do you understand?